welcome everyone. My name is Dulye Leadership. I'm a filmmaker based in Durham, North Carolina, and a member of the DLE Culture Chat committee. I will be moderating today's program. The DLE Culture Chat is a business-oriented open forum that examines trends, changes, and challenges in today's workplace. In just 60 minutes, we engage multiple perspectives through a moderated format that promotes respectful conversations about vital topics for career success with actionable takeaways. Our goal is to help you grow what you know and who you know in a welcoming, supportive, professional environment. The sustained sponsorship of Dulye & Company Consultancy has enabled Culture Chat and other DLE programs to be free since 2008. We have a blend of DLE members and newcomers joining today from diverse regions, industries, and positions. So let's take a few seconds to connect. Please type your name in the chat box, your company, title, location, where you're joining us from. And if you would like, put your LinkedIn profile URL so you all can connect with each other outside of this program. Okay. Let's quickly review some ground rules. And Josh, we can go to the next slide. For now, please stay on mute. Use the raise hand feature when we get the conversation going to participate. Remember to unmute when you are called on and use the chat box for comments and questions pertinent to the topic. As a reminder, the first 20 minutes of this program are being recorded, and we'll stop the recording once we go to breakouts. A quick shout out of appreciation to the volunteers of the Culture Chat Planning Committee who are the producers of today's program. Khaled Rocha, Vice President of Investments and Private Client Advisor for JP Morgan Wealth Management in Houston, Texas. Allison Schmidt, Executive Director of E4All Berkshire County in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Kay Abbott, freelance writer and editor for BTW Berkshires in Williamstown, Massachusetts. Josh Brilliant, Systems Test Engineer at General Dynamics Mission Systems in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Morgan Meyer, copywriter at Bridge House Media in St. Petersburg, Florida, and O'Neill Carter, regulatory associate at Regeneron and Rensselaer, New York. Okay, next slide. We have a special guest joining us from Los Angeles who will help us get started. Lou Alexander is a former National Football League player who has transitioned into a corporate sales leader, serving as the head of revenue in the SaaS industry for over a decade. His expertise lies in sales and business development, and he is passionate about leadership, coaching, and team building. An in-demand motivational speaker, Lou has a proven track record of uplifting, encouraging, and motivating established and aspiring leaders in corporate and collegiate audiences year-round. So he is a very, very busy man. Thank you, Lou, for sharing your insights and experience with our DLE community today, and let's get started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaliyah. I appreciate it. Thank you, DLE, as well, our Dulye Experience, for the opportunity. Also, like Aaliyah mentioned, I am a motivational speaker, but I would try to kind of digress a little bit from giving a lot of motivation and hopefully give you guys some practical things that you can kind of action as it pertains to your career journey, and how that looks. So I'm excited to, be on this platform to be able to share my knowledge and my experience, and I'm looking forward to connecting with each of you post this chat. So we can get started here on the first slide, please. Awesome. Well, first off, before I kind of give this statistic, this was something that we wanted to really kind of grab an attention of our listeners and our community. I think sometime as we go throughout our corporate journey, it's sometimes hard to think that there's others in our seat that is experiencing the same thing, same things that we're going through. As you would see in this research, 60% of people have this number one most common career regret, says new research, right? One of them and four of them that really stands out is not asking for a pay increase. That's 60%. That's just not asking for a pay increase. Number two is just not prioritizing work-life balance. I would say that this is very true for a lot of us, right? Especially in the corporate structure that we live in, very highly competitive. We feel like we always need to stay ahead. So not prioritizing that work-life balance is very, very key. Number three is just staying at a job too long. I know that there's a ton of folks that obviously stay long beyond their welcome, right? And that's because of scarcity mentality, right? And we'll get to the depths of why that happens as we go throughout the presentation. Number four is not negotiating salaries for new jobs. This is huge. This is a huge one. And this is why I think these chats are very, very pertinent because we talk about the in-depths and structures of why you feel we don't provide the value or you provide the value to really negotiate what that new salary looks like, right? So we'll kind of talk about that. But these are large numbers, right? So we need to ask ourselves, how does this happen? What does career misalignment look like? What does that look like to you guys? And it can look like a couple of different things, right? It can look like a decrease in job satisfaction. It can look like poor performance, which leads to internal doubt or credibility. It can lead to career stagnation as well, but it can also lead to misorganizational goals because all of these things kind of play into part. And so when this happens, we need to go back to the drawing board and we need to understand and align ourselves with what our roles and our goals and our core values are, right? What does that actually mean for us? And I hope that we can kind of really get some information out of this that can help us align with what that truly looks like. Next slide, please. So job roles versus career-oriented goals versus core values. And what is the difference, right? As we look at the difference, this is something that came early on in my career. As Aaliyah mentioned, I'm a technology sales guy. I've been in the SaaS industry for now 12 years. Over 12 years, I've always been in these fast-paced environments. But what I would say is earlier in my career, what I suffered from in these fast-paced environments is not understanding where my structure was, not understanding what my job roles were. And if any of you guys ever worked in a startup, you understand that sometimes startups ask you to do things outside of your discipline, right? Outside of where your expertise is. So I was always asked to be the marketing guy. I was asked to be the sales guy, but sometimes I was asked to be the DevOps guy as well. But what that was doing is that wasn't creating a very well structure for me, right? The format of that sounded great, and I knew I can offer value in each stage, but it was the diversity of each of those individual disciplines wasn't really tackling what I needed to really tackle as it pertains to what my goals were and what my job role and responsibilities were. So what I needed is I needed a system. I needed a system that allowed me to create a roadmap towards what success looked like for me, even outside of corporate, because I can learn a lot, right? But if I don't have a system in place that I can now take and I can duplicate that system to the next place, I'm just stagnant, right? It goes back to what we saw in the previous slide of that my credibility is lost now. I don't know where my true value leads. So for me, I had to create that roadmap of system. So what I really want to do is really define what our job roles and goals and values are. And that's what I'll do here in this presentation. Next, please. So there are plenty of job roles, right? One can have. It's important that we don't confuse the two, right? Career-oriented goals are much broader. These are long-term vision objectives that are personal aspirations, right? For an example, my role today as it stands is I'm the head of revenue. Now, that's just a fancier way of just saying that I'm ahead of making sure that any new products acquisitions or any new clients, I'm at the forefront of that. I want to make sure that I curate great clients to ensure that revenue growth is sustaining for our company that we can duplicate year over year, right? That's what my title is, right? And I want to ensure that that is what I do to the best of my abilities. Having a team under me that I can manage, that I can actually drive these goals with as well, that is what the vision is for that specific role, right? But on these platforms, I aim to try to understand exactly, well, what am I doing in my role currently that's aligned to my goal, right? And I use my everyday job as my stage. I am a motivational speaker by nature. I am someone that's a consultant by nature. So what I do is I try to conduct my audience in a way of giving them clear context and vision that aligns them to their goals, but also aligning myself to my goal, right? So a number one rule that we have to make sure we understand is that A job role, it's referred to a specific position and function within your organization. That's just your role. But your career oriented goals are broader, they're long term, they're objectives that individuals set for themselves, right? And it's based on whatever your personal aspirations are. And I know a lot of us on this call have a ton of personal aspirations outside of just the role that we play within our job. So start to get some of that toolage underneath your belt to use the platform that you have for your job to make sure that that parlays or springboard you into what your career oriented goals are or what your aspirations are outside of just what career that you're currently in. Next slide, please. So there's a quote that I absolutely love. And this quote for me is by Elvis Presley. And it's essentially about value, right? And he mentioned that values are like fingerprints. Nobody are the same, but you leave them all over everything that you do. And another quote that I love to do is how you do anything is how you do everything, right? But this is a quote that specifically asks you the question and it prompts the idea of how do you want to spend your time? How do you want to spend your time as it pertains to the things that you are doing on a daily basis, your role, right? How are you spending your time? Are you someone that's spending your time from a solution oriented role, right? Or are you spending your time being risk mitigative and reactive, right? These are the things that hold us back from ultimately saying that we can feel the confidence to enable us to have the conversations with internal staff, to have those conversations with folks that are making sure that they're able to help us internally to make sure our brand is represented the right way, right? How we do anything is how we do everything. But again, our fingerprints spread throughout the organization, they spread everywhere, right? And so we have to ask ourselves the question, how do we want to spend our time? But secondly, too, and this is what I don't want us to forget, and I want us to write this down, is what do you want to pay attention to? I've been able to see success over my career because I pay attention to those that are in front of me, but I also pay attention to trends. Trends for me are what enable me to be at the seat currently that I am, to be a thought leader in my space. Someone asked me the other day at 34 years old, right? They asked me the other day, 34 years old, Lou, how did you find so much success, right? Folks don't get to your level until they're in their mid 40s or et cetera. I always said that I was never afraid to pay attention. I was always paying attention to those who knew more than me. And I know that that sounds cliche, but it's not because I think sometimes we forget the practical attributes that go into paying attention to those that are in front of you. And you have to pay attention to those that are doing your job and your role the best way that they can. And you have to see yourself in their seat, right? And again, not forgetting about whatever your goals are and what you aspire to be, because that's actually what helps you align your goals is paying attention. So ask yourself, what do you pay attention to? Number three, the language you use, the way you handle critical incidents, right? So this is another key one. Are you just trying to sound smart, right? Or are you actually going and consuming the knowledge so you can be of value, right? Because some of us we always want to sound smart, and I know a ton of folks like that. They want to go back and they want to recite every single plan that is in every doctrine that they've learned from Plato and Cicero. Cool, you do that. That's perfectly fine. But my thing is, in your discipline, you need to understand that you need to make sure you study. Be a student of your role and your goals. Be a student of that. Because when we talk about aligning ourselves, we have to align ourselves of being a student first, and that it will ensure that we can make sure that we springboard into those things that we see success. And then the last one here is open to feedback. Are you open to feedback? Critical feedback, not just feedback that is just you're doing well, keep doing a good job. Hey, Susie, hey, Frank, you could have did this a little bit better and here's how, right? You missed your target by X amount of revenue. Here's how you can do so, right? Later on. So we have to make sure that we're open to critical feedback because that is use for us to go forward with whatever we're doing to align ourselves with our core values and roles and goals. Next slide, please. This one is huge, and I'm gonna try to run through these just for the sake of time. Fostering empowerment and achieving peak performance in a workplace. This is huge. This is where the meats and potatoes sit. Sometimes we see ourselves where we are here and we hit a peak, but then all of a sudden, what happens, right? We get stagnant. And that comes from all outside pressures, that come from internal pressures, that come from everything because we don't have a framework, right? So, what I would ask for us to do is clarify your career oriented goals. What does that look like to you? In the next 5 years, if you're a financial advisor, do I want to have my own IA firm? Do I want to set up something that I'm making sure that I foster relationships? Or do I just want to work underneath an umbrella that basically states that I'm just there and I want to get to the top of that chain? That's okay. However your goals are, just make sure you clarify it, right? But you have to consistently and you have to continuously develop your skills. I read at least a month. I read one book on sales a month. That is my goal. By the end of the year, there's 12 books on sales and leadership that I've read. And I want to make sure that I'm developing my skills that way because now I'm going to take that information and I'm not going to just leave it internally. I'm going to apply that to whatever I have to do in my day, right? But also, I'm going to apply that by developing around folks that actually know more than me. It's just like practice. I'm an athlete, so I used to practice these things and ensuring that my practice was perfect. That's how I developed my skills by getting around veterans that knew more than me, right? Number three is be proactive about your career transitions. Let's not just blindly invite new job roles. And I understand our environment that we're in. I get it. We're in an environment right now that is very, very critical to who you know and what you know. I mean, not what you know, it's who you know, right? That's very critical. And I get it, right? We're in that scarcity mentality because again, it's competitive, but we have to still be proactive. Believe in yourself enough to offer the value add from whatever you can offer to make sure that your transition is seamless towards your core roles, your core goals and roles that you have in alignment. Because if you have that structure, you won't just take another job, right? You will take the job that actually fosters your skill set the best. And then number four is just communicate with management. This is huge. I tell my guys and gals all the time, have a conversation with me. If you don't come to the table with a conversation about solutions and also feeling as if you are empowered enough to have a conversation with me, I would never reach out to you. Because what I'm waiting to see is if you are proactive about reaching out to me to ensure that you actually are an advocate for your own job, for your own career, for your own responsibilities. Are you advocating for yourself? Don't look at management to advocate for you because it won't happen. We have a million things that are going on. We have a board to report to. We have other shareholders internally to talk to. We can't always foster and empower you. You have to ensure that you empower yourself. And when you come to us and you build that credibility about where you are and where you're headed, then that's when we start to say, let me pour more into you. And that's what the great leaders do. And I'm pretty sure all of you came across really great leaders that will empower you in that way. So make sure you communicate with management effectively with solution. Write that down. Communicate with solution, not with problems. Because problems will get a door slammed in your face. Solutions will open up a million more. All right. I just wanted to make sure that we communicate that. Next slide, please. So how do you communicate with management? I think we talked to this already, but again, it's just preparing before your conversation, showing your willingness to learn, being proactive about your career development plans, and follow up on conversations. Follow up on conversations is what I did mention. What does that email look like back, right, to management? What does it look like? Is it just recapping and saying, thank you for the call or thank you for the conversation? It was great. No. Hey, thank you, such and such. I really appreciate the conversation and your willingness to really drive my skill set forward. Here's what I put in preparation for our next conversation. Your follow up now is about a next conversation because now you're selling internally, right? You're internally selling yourself as a brand that this person does not just have a follow up that stops at the conversation. They're going to follow up and ask for other conversations. And now our relationship is two-way because all management wants to do is teach, right? We want to teach, but we only want to teach when we're asked for help and when your guys ask for help, right? So we're going to teach and ensure that we enable you guys to teach whatever that looks like, whatever it looks like for you that is pertinent, but making sure that that follow-up conversation in that email is very articulate and exact to what you need us and what you need from us and what we can deliver and give you in return as well. Next slide. So keeping your career on track with KPIs, right? So if anyone doesn't know what KPIs are, these are key performance indicators, right? And a lot of us, we have these measures of success as we go throughout our days, right? But now I'm asking all of you guys to have these measures of success as you go throughout your career, right? So what I would ask is number one, skill development and certifications are huge in today. We all hear AI, we hear it all the time, right? AI is here and it's been here for the last decade. It's been here, but now it's even more evident, right? It's evident because it's really what is helping your skill set and driving your skill set. But I mentioned that because there's certifications out there that are out there for you to be AI certifying, whatever that looks like, right? If it's machine learning, if it's augmented AI, whatever it looks like for you guys, there is artificial intelligence certifications or other certifications out there that you may not see outside of tech industries. I'm only speaking to the disciplines that I know and I'm aware of. But making sure that you get those certifications are very, very key, very pertinent because it helps you become even more competitive in a competitive nature. Performance in your current role. You don't go anywhere until you go somewhere where you are currently, right? So you can't ask for a raise if there is nothing you're giving back in return, right? And your performance of where it stands currently, even if you hate the job, still perform. I had roles that I hated. I'll say that all the time. I say it publicly. I say it all the time in any environment that I'm in. I had roles I hated, but I still was making sure that I was at least the top five in that role. Because what that did was if I know I can execute a role that I hate, I damn sure will execute a role that I love, right? So I want you guys to always remember performance in your current role is key. Leadership and responsibility growth, right? Be your own leader with where you are currently. It is your responsibility. Be your own leader. You have to lead and you have to be the CEO of your book of business. You have to be the CEO of your role. You have to be the CEO for yourself. That is your responsibility to your growth. Make sure you are a leader of yourself. Career progression and promotions. That's key, right? That's very self and direct and very straightforward, right? But you got to track these things to make sure that you are on par towards what you're trying to grow towards. Networking and relationships. Look at you guys are already here right now. You're building a relationship with this platform. You're networking currently, which you're going to have breakout sessions where you can start to network a little bit more and even ask questions more in depth. This is where these things actually come to fruition because there's somebody here that's probably doing a role that you would like to do or somebody in a seat that you would like to be in. Have that conversation about it, right? Career plan milestones. We all have to set these milestones, right? Now, I'm not asking you guys to set esoteric goals of like, okay, in 30 days, I'm going to be a CEO. Now, we got to be smart, right? Specific and measurable, right? We have to be smart about these roles, right? But create those milestones that are aligned to where you are currently. But what you have to do is really dissect where you are in order for this KPI to work and for you to track that success, where are you currently? And be open about that. Look yourself in the mirror, write it down. I am a SDR right now. I'm at the bottom of the totem pole, or I'm at an entry level role. Cool, that's perfectly fine. But in the next 3 years, I'm going to be here. And here are my steps that I'm going to take in alignment to make sure that my career plan milestones are hit effectively and work your tail off to get there by any means necessary. All right. So I want to end it with this. Believe in your career path. You are on the right path. And the reason why you're on the right path is because you're asking questions and you're here. A lot of us think that we're not on the right path because, again, we're virtual for 75% of our environments of work. So it's sometimes hard to think in silo that we're seeing progression when all we see is a computer screen in front of us or a camera looking back at us. So I get it, right? We don't see that career path progression, but your resume is still being built each and every day that you are actually in your seat. So what you have to always believe in is that your role is what your role is, but have real aspirations about what your goals are going to be. Because when you align those and you make sure that you have a progression towards your core values and you don't waver from those, you stick to that. When you talk to management, you stick to your core values, you stick to what your goals are, and you feel that you can embrace yourself and empower yourself enough to feel like you can articulate that. That's where you are right now. And you have to make sure you give that vision to not only yourself, but to whomever is around you, because your career does matter. It matters. And you have to ensure that you align yourself to your career, because your career is going to set up what your ultimate goal is in life that you want to achieve. I am here, I'm living proof of that. And again, I've been in the industry for 12 years and I've been a head of revenue for 7. And I promise you, without this system, I would have never been able to align myself with where I am today. So I hope if you've taken anything out of this, the number one thing you take out of it is believe in your career and never waver of your core values and your roles and goals, because you are enough to achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So that's my time. I can't wait to talk to you guys individually. Thank you so much. Thank you, DLE. Thank you for all of you guys for inviting me. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the conversation. Thank you.